Secretary will read a message from the House.
Mr. President, the House has agreed to the Senate substitute as amended by the House to the following bill of the House. House Bill 159 by Representative Reeves of the 34th, Willard of the 51st, Evans of the 42nd, and others. A bill be titled and act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for adoption and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 48th.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I was happy to learn yesterday that we're moving closer to an agreement on the adoption bill, and that the House has taken up the changes that we made and moved closer to our position in many respects. I'm very hopeful that an adoption bill will be able to be passed during this session and as early in this session as possible. And I say that as someone who believes passionately in the importance of adoption and the role that adoptive parents play in raising children. I was born in a home for unwed mothers run by the Sisters of Charity 52 years ago, and adopted when I was 11 days old by Jim and Sarah Schaefer, a working class couple. We lived then in western Pennsylvania. My dad was a debit insurance agent, sold insurance policies door to door, and he and my mother adopted me when I was 11 days old. I remember after my dad died, I was with my mother, and she told me of my 11th day. I was actually adopted. They actually picked me up from the home the day after Mother's Day, 1965. So Mother's Day, 1965, my mother knew I was born. She knew she was picking me up the next day, and celebrated Mother's Day, but was not quite a mother. She said it took her an hour to drive to a very bad part of downtown Pittsburgh where the adoption agency was located, and they handed me over with a plastic suitcase and one change of clothes. It took an hour to drive back. She said she held me in her arms. This is long before the day of car seats, but she held me in her arms for that 1 hour, and she said that at the end of that hour, it was as if I had been hers not for that hour, but for all 11 days before that and all 9 months before that. I want to make sure that we pass an adoption bill that is right for working class families here in Georgia. I think that there has been tremendous progress made on this bill. I do have some concern that some of the provisions that have been added back by the House will, perhaps unintentionally, raise the cost of adoption for working class families. It creates a whole range of payments that they are not required to make now in private adoptions. And when you look at data from other states, when these type of payments are authorized, the cost of adoptions go up and become more difficult and burdensome for the loving parents who are accepting the challenge and responsibility of raising children who are not naturally theirs. I have not read every word of the 107-page bill that they sent over to us. I look forward to reading it, and I look forward to our two chambers reaching some sort of agreement that makes sure that adoption remains affordable for working class families in Georgia. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes now the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, it's exciting to see the House has finally taken action on the bill that we passed in an expedited fashion. at the request of the Speaker on day 5 of our session that was back on January the 18th. They have now been deliberating over this for a couple of weeks and apparently have taken to heart some of our concerns that we've expressed both in the version that we passed and in our negotiations offline with the House since that time. I'm looking forward to spending some time this weekend reviewing it, 107 pages, to see exactly where we did and did not agree. It looks like we're making great progress on the mother's right to rescind or from her decision to give her child up, to give a little more time there for them to contemplate that major life decision. I'm especially excited about the work that the Lieutenant Governor's office has done with the Governor's office. Governor Dill's staff and the Governor have been very pleasant to work with, very cooperative with us as we sat down and tried to work out what is a major portion of this bill that was originally House Bill 359. Last year, you will recall, was vetoed because the Governor had some concerns about that bill. Did the state have enough of an active role in parents' decisions to put their child in the care of another for a limited period of time? I think this bill strikes a wonderful balance on that. As I understand it, the agreement with the Governor would be that if you leave a child with another family member of yours under a power of attorney, that is acceptable. The state would not need to get involved. But if you leave them with somebody else, that there would be some requirement to notify a probate court, do background searches on that prospective guardian of your child, we'll call it, there for a period of time to make certain that the best interest of the children are also protected. And I remind all of us that that's where we're trying to get. We're trying to protect the children of Georgia. We're trying to encourage adoptions, to make it easier, and to make sure there are good, safe homes for these children to be placed in so that we reduce the burden on our foster care system that we're currently doing. I'm real excited about the Governor's active negotiation with us, and I commend the Lieutenant Governor for his work on that piece of the bill. My understanding of it is that everybody's going to be very happy with that, and I applaud the House for working with us on that as well, because I know they had some concerns or qualms about that being something that we could work out. We're really, you know, all three bodies here, the Senate, the House, and the executive branch, the Governor's mansion, could see eye to eye. So that is exciting to me. As our senator from the 48th has so eloquently just explained, our concerns from the Senate side involve injecting money into this adoption process. You know, can private parties, private attorneys be able to essentially negotiate or bid for their own clients? Remember, they'll be representing their client, the adoptive parents, not so concerned about the child, so that their client can receive a child, because any of you who have adopted or had family members that were so wanting to raise children, to have a child, know that there's very little that you wouldn't do to make sure that you can have a child to raise. And this will be something that we want to spend a lot of time looking over. You know, I don't think that it's good for us to drag this out for the whole session, but I mean, it's been in 2 years in the making, this bill. We passed it after deliberation and great study over the summer of our different study groups that looked in it. Like I say, we passed it January 18th. The House has taken another 2 or 3 weeks since then to get to this version, and I think it's prudent on our part for us to spend a lot of time and review this before the Senate takes action. I'm not sure where the President wants to go with that today, but I would urge us to use due deliberation, because this is important legislation for the children of Georgia and for the families of Georgia, for parents. Very excited about certain portions of it, and I thank the House for seeing it our way and compromising with us on some of these areas. Still have some areas of contention. I hope we'll continue working and can come to a conclusion where we can do the right thing for all the children of Georgia and all the parents of Georgia. Thank you very much for letting me be heard on that, Mr. President, and I will take my 107-pager home this weekend and look at the changes and see, you know, what I feel, and I'll be prepared to make a decision once we've had a time to give it due deliberation. Thank you very much. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate everyone's work to get us to the place by which we are today, and certainly Senator from the 23rd, the distinguished Judiciary Chairman who has worked diligently on this issue. The Senator from the 48th has been a passionate advocate in this area. Senator from the 3rd and the entire Judiciary Committee who has worked throughout the summer on a very, very important issue, and we applaud your efforts along with the House that has been articulated as a process moves along. We will continue through the negotiations as well as the governor who has stepped up in a major, major way, and we are indeed grateful for him as well. That will conclude our business of the day. Chair recognizes Senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will move that the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to Senate Resolution 631 until 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, February 5th. Wish everybody a good weekend with your families and back in your districts.
Senators move to adjourn 10 o'clock on Monday. All those in favor will vote aye. Senator from the 31st, what purpose you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. At what point will we get a copy of whatever the House has done?
Those are being printed as we speak. They are being printed as we speak. They will be available to you in the Secretary of Senate's office.
Any timetable on that?
No, they haven't got them printed yet. What? About 20 minutes. About 20 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Majority Leaders move that we stand adjourned till 10 a.m. on Monday. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.